Sarah is passing stuff out. I'm Eric Meyer. I'm a representative from District 11. I also serve on the Scottsdale School Board, and we're going to talk about education-related issues today. I'm going to briefly describe what's gone on in our district, Scottsdale, over the past 2 years. We've faced massive cuts. $1.2 billion have been cut from the education budget at the state level. That has resulted in Scottsdale needing to cut about $25 million from their $160 or so million budget. And we have had large increases in our class sizes, even though we've cut administration, closed schools, done all kinds of things to generate revenue in our district, cut our utility usage by 5.2 million kilowatt hours. Our class sizes now at our middle and high school level are 34 on average, which means teachers are seeing almost 180 kids come through their classroom each day. And just to put that in perspective, if you spend a minute with a kid in your classroom and have 34 kids, in a 50-minute class, you can't spend 2 minutes with each kid. And it's becoming more and more challenging for our teachers to educate our kids and prepare them for college and the workforce. And beyond that, they've lost all other support services. Social workers at our school have been eliminated, library aides, some of our SROs, our police officers on campus have been eliminated, everything is now falling on the teacher's back. In this year we're in, teachers are also facing loss of 301 money to the tune of $3,000 to $4,000 per teacher, and their morale is not good. I can tell you that as a school board member. The new budget that the governor has proposed makes, again, a large cut to K-12 education, and the Senate budget cuts an additional $172 million. What that would mean to Scottsdale is that we'd be looking at cuts in the range of, if the governor's budget passes, about $6 million. If the Senate budget passes, closer to $10 million. And you know, the vast majority of our budget is salaries and benefits. 90% of it is salaries and benefits, and the vast majority of those salaries are paid to teachers. And we would be looking at, again, larger class sizes. And the crazy thing is, in our science labs, for instance, they're built for 30 kids. So, you know, when we have 34 and 35 kids, kids can't get the exposure to things that the business community directly wants, which are training in science, math, and technology. For me, as a legislator, I'm getting a lot of letters right now about what happened to the $1 billion that we voted on last year as parents and teachers and community members to protect education. Why is education not protected in this budget? And I find that hard to answer. The voters in District 11 approved that by almost a 70% margin. There's not a margin. 70% of the voters voted in favor of the Prop 100, and now they're asking, why hasn't education been protected, and why are we again facing massive cuts to our education system? Just one last note is on a bill that I sponsored, which was 2670, which would have saved school districts across the state dollars by changing the requirement to keep all of our students' records, their transcripts and immunization records on microfilm. It allows us to keep it electronically. In our district, one of the cost-saving things we've done is to go to electronic records and do most things online. My bill was heard in Education Committee. It would save districts across the state thousands of dollars. It passed out of Education Committee unanimously, and now is waiting to be third read on the floor. It was on the consent agenda and wasn't pulled. So this is just a small thing that would help our district save money, and I'm hoping that it will get third read maybe this week so it can get over to the Senate. So that's just a brief K-12 synopsis, and I think Representative Pancrazzi is going to continue on the K-12 discussion. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lynn Pancrazzi. I represent District 24, which is Yuman and La Paz counties, and we're considered a rural district. I've taught for more than 30 years, and I've taught elementary and coached in the junior high and high school. And right now I continue to substitute when I get a chance and when we're not in session. And I can tell you that class sizes have increased greatly, and teachers are feeling the the effects of not having enough help in those classrooms and larger class sizes. I am really concerned about the cutting of all-day kinder in the Senate budget. We keep increasing the number of requirements that we place on teachers as far as student achievement, and yet we've cut our kindergartens back down to half-day kinders. I taught for 11 years in kindergarten and had half-day kinders, and I can tell you the requirements that are being required now of those students in a half-day program are going to make it even more difficult for us to get to reading by third grade and passing when ready from third grade. Now, the other thing that really concerns me is that Arizona is last in the per pupil spending that we spend on our children in education. And with me living in a rural district, I can tell you that rural Arizona gets hit the hardest. The people who work in these rural schools have to wear more than one hat. And with all the cuts, I was speaking to a teacher just this weekend, and my school district, Yuma School District number 1, is considering cutting 41 teachers. Well, that's a lot of hats that are going to be gone, a lot of support for our kids that are going to be gone. So with that, I'd like to read a letter from a teacher in the Flagstaff School District. I'm the department chair, which means I'm part of the hiring committee for our department. The last 3 years, we have seen young, enthusiastic, and dedicated teachers who have 2 years or less teaching leave because we can't afford the cost of living in Flagstaff based on what they are paid. If they do stay for more than 2 years, they are gone shortly thereafter because they can't plan on having a family, buying a house, or a vacation, since there are no plans in the long term to honor step increases. Class sizes are getting ridiculous. And as the years go on, teachers are having to start to pay for their own materials. Librarian just put out a school-wide email requesting teachers donate money to buy paper. The very best are leaving this state, and they are getting jobs outside of Arizona. They are that good. The veteran teachers actually encourage them to leave. The state of Arizona doesn't deserve them. I have another letter from a biology teacher who is buying all of her own supplies because the budget has been cut so severely that she doesn't have the supplies to be able to even teach the classes. Her books, they buy classroom sets of 32, and she's sitting with 37 in a classroom. So these are the effects of the budget cuts to education. And these are the future workers of our state. And with that, I think Mr. Chapin would like to come up.
Good morning. I'm Representative Tom Chabin, and I represent District 2, which encompasses Northern Arizona University. And I'm going to discuss this morning the cuts to higher education. In the Senate budget, one of the biggest cuts is to higher education, which is one of the biggest economic generators in Arizona. Let's think about that. One of the biggest economic generators in Arizona is being cut. It doesn't make any sense. The Senate Republican budget cuts an additional $65 million over the $170 million contained in the Republican or in the governor's budget for higher education. Let's add another $73 million to community colleges. That's $300 million being cut out of this fiscal year's budget for higher education. Arizona has an opportunity to balance their budget by going after hundreds of millions of dollars in uncollected taxes. It doesn't matter to the Republican. Instead of going after tax cheats and uncollected taxes, Republicans make massive cuts to our economic generator and thus Arizona's future. It doesn't matter to the Republicans that there is nearly $10 billion in exemptions in the Arizona sales tax code, and Republicans refuse to close those loopholes that benefit their rich special interest friends. The Republicans want to make a direct cut to our investment to our future. Now, for me, the most devastating impact of these cuts is a direct hit to Arizona's middle-class families who want a future for their kids, who want a degree. Tuition at our universities have more than doubled over the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, NAU's tuition has grown from $3,400 a year to now more than $8,000 a year. If you would add dorm costs, it will cost the average Arizona family $70,000 to $80,000 a year if you add dorm costs and fees, just for their kid to get a 4-year degree. If a kid is smart enough to go to the pharmacy school at U of A, at the graduate level, the costs are over $50,000 a year. What hope do our brightest middle-class kids have to providing an income of $30,000 or $40,000 a year that they can only achieve through higher education? Because of the action of the Republicans that makes these cuts to higher education and force unaffordable tuition to our middle-class families have no hope. It doesn't matter to the Republicans today that today 4 out of 5 of our kids are working with only a high school degree, and 4 out of 5 of our kids never walk onto a campus of higher education, public or private. Now more than ever, we need to hold the Republican government, that is a government that is controlled by them, accountable. House Democrats believe in good government that is on your side, good government that is transparent and responsive. That is not what the Senate budget does. That's why House Democrats are committed to holding Republicans who control all of state government accountable for their actions in this irresponsible budget that makes more massive cuts to higher education. Representative Alston.
I was a graduate student driving to ASU, Maine every single day while I was teaching school full-time and trying to raise 2 little children. In 1995, I spearheaded an effort to provide primary care health care facility on the MetroTech campus. We did that through a partnership with Banner Health Services, and so that we were able to provide health services for our students, their children, and their siblings who were under 18 years of age. I currently serve on the Phoenix Union High School School Board and would like to recreate some of those programs like primary health care for our students that are so needed in today's economy. I had a school named after me, the Leela Alston School, elementary school in the Isaac District. That is the biggest honor that a person like me who was a teacher could ever have. Unfortunately, it's very possible in the next month that Leela Alston Elementary School will be closed because of the cuts that have been made to education budgets and the economy that we as a Republican-led legislature have been unwilling to face in a realistic manner that will make a real difference with real people in Arizona and throughout Arizona. I know firsthand that these cuts will decimate our schools and our education. That's because House Democrats know that quality education is a moral issue and an economic issue. It is key to our children, it is key to our middle class, it is key to our future and our children's future. Politicians at the Capitol, if you have heard, have already jeopardized education in Arizona. We are in danger of permanently damaging all of our educational institutions in this state to a point that we cannot recover. We need to prioritize our children's future, our future, so that in a worldwide economy, we can still have hope for tomorrow. We need to rebuild the infrastructure needed to economically rebound and create incubators for economic sectors like biosciences and renewable energy, and to provide training for our workforce. That's what our schools are doing today. We have a fine small school in Phoenix Union, which is the Bioscience School, who works directly with the campuses of ASU and U of A in downtown Phoenix. That school, along with others, even though it's not being talked about, I don't want to start any bad rumors of being closed now, but if this kind of cut continues, that very fine academic institution, for example, could be facing concerns. We create opportunities through universities and community colleges. You heard about some of that with some of our earlier speakers. We create high-paying jobs for our citizens so that as the economic recovery occurs, our people will be ready to step forward and take those jobs and thrive, and their families will thrive. We hold, as House Democrats, the Republicans accountable for their actions. And we fight for jobs, for schools, for small businesses, and for Arizona's economy to get moving again. We know that how we respond to the economy is a test of how we are as a people. We need to take a balanced approach for a strong future. We need to preserve our communities and our freedom and leave a legacy for future generations. We have an opportunity to fix a broken system. We need to get our economy moving again, protect our essential services for middle class, and create a world-class economic and education system. It's time for we as a people to stand up. We have to stand up for what is right and for what we stand to lose. We need to stand up for common sense, for accountability, for transparency, and for an honest and effective government. We can do it, all of us together. And I will now turn the podium over to my leadership, Mr. Farley and Mr. Townsend.
Thank you. We will take questions at this point for any of the speakers.